Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris James.
Almost sounds like Michael Jordan should come running out of the tunnel there in 1995.
Yakima Olajuwon in slow motion, slamming it home.
Yes. Well, welcome again to Inside the Arena. This is episode 3. That was the smooth voice of David Lee. He's been a long time sports voice for years. We're good to have him on board here, and I'm happy, glad to be back in the studio with you, Niko.
Right back at you, Chris. Thank you. And listen, these first 2 weeks have been indication, really evidence that, first of all, Seattle sports are awesome. But this is what this show is about. There's always something happening, especially behind the scenes. And there's so many stories out there that extra context means so much. And we've got some great parts today that really are some great stories that'll tell the future of Seattle sports.
Yeah, so let's talk about how this show is different than others that you might have heard before. This is called Inside the Arena. Besides the name, we are talking about things that are happening really off the ice, off the court, off the field of play, whether that means the return of the Sonics and what's going on with the developments in that story, NIL, realignment, TV digital rights deals, construction projects. Think the business of sports, philanthropic efforts, the context you cannot get anywhere else, and we're going to be going in depth about it this week in particular on the financial issues at Washington State University and the University of Washington, the athletic problems in those programs that are now trickling over to the academic budget. We're going to be talking a lot about the Sonics, the past, the present, and the future with the 3-time Hall of Famer, Lenny Wilkens. He's in the Hall of Fame 3 times, once as a player, as a coach, and as a coach on the Dream Team. He sat down with us for an extended conversation, not only about the return of the Sonics, but some of his old friends in the NBA that have recently passed away. And then, of course, Kraken General Manager Ron Francis talks about the season that just continues for the AHL affiliate in Coachella Valley. But first, let's touch all of the bases as part of 4 corners. We're going to go around the bases, if you love this metaphor like I do, to tell you what's good and what's bad in local sports. At Niko, we have sound effects.
Wow.
For 4 corners.
I mean, it's getting my adrenaline going. I like this.
Yes, it's like we're in the ballpark.
Yeah, we are. And you know what? There was a lot of fans at Lumen Field Saturday, and that's one of my first corner I want to touch on from a positive standpoint. You only get a 50th anniversary once. And the Sounders have taken this and run with it, and they've done a great job. It's not easy to pull off, but the fact that they've unveiled that new crest that looks amazing, that they pulled off this celebration and sent fans home happy with a victory, which is also the other part of the equation that's tough to do. Listen, we've talked often about how this is a critical juncture for the Sounders, added competition with new teams like the Kraken and probably soon the Sonics, right? And they need to get back to that 16-19 form where we saw them winning. And they hadn't done that much this year, but yeah, here they are with this big party, this big celebration. They honor the history of the franchise, 50 years since their arrival. They get the win, and maybe this is something that can kick off the rest of the summer.
I'm going to go with the Reign. There was big news this week that also is related to the Sounders and the Carlisle Group,
right,
which has officially purchased the Seattle Reign. So the Sounders will now be operating with the Reign under that roof. That puts the NWSL franchise on even more solid ground. $58 million, the number, means they're going to be staying here long-term now, working with the Sounders. Certainly seems like they could be a candidate now down the road to either train or have games at the new Sounders complex in Renton, or perhaps, just perhaps, Memorial Stadium once that renovation's.
So I hate to go to something negative after something really cool like that, but I saw a story, and I've seen actually more than one story the last couple of days saying how NBA has some of the lowest playoff ratings they've ever seen. Game 4 got a pretty only 9 million some odd people watch, which is still a lot of people.
Yeah.
But here's my gripe with that. And it's very similar to my line of thinking last week when I was talking about the conference realignment stuff and how it gets leaked out with an agenda, or it's not necessarily things that are accurate. I think that's that number, that record low, is certainly not taking into account streaming, all the different platforms people consume media. Hey, Thanks for watching and listening to us wherever you do, right? And so I just think I just want to make sure if anybody saw that story, this is kind of in our arena, and this is what we talk about from the standpoint of the business is changing. And it's silly to say, oh, the ratings are low, the interest isn't there. Are you kidding me? The interest is higher than maybe it's been since the mid-90s. And so when you hear Chris and I talk about the return of the Sonics and you talk about expansion fees around $3 to $5 billion, I think there's interest there. And so this is my PSA to all of our wonderful listeners and viewers out there. Don't read and believe everything you see out there. Okay. Interest is high in the NBA. These finals were fun to watch. Okay. And just understand that the NBA interest, especially here in the PNW, when the Sonics come back, is about as high as it's been, give or take 30 years.
And there is a reason why the NBA is likely going to sign a $76 billion TV digital
There's
rights
no
deal.
interest, though. The ratings are low. Case in point.
Okay, let me give you my negative as we bring this home. I'll go with the UW and WSU. The latter's Board of Regents voted this week to shift $88.4 million from athletics or into athletics from the academic budget to balance the budget, which they are contractually they have to do at the end of the fiscal year. They say it will be paid back at the start of the fiscal year. So this is just a temporary movement of $88.4 million. It's just a temporary movement. It was a little odd. They're not the only ones in trouble, though. UW's in a similar predicament because of the debt on Husky Stadium, as you know. And I spoke with UW President Anamari Kase about that. Another thing that's a big deal that's also been in the news quite a bit lately is this move of the University of Washington to the Big Ten. As you said, you're not retiring. You're still going to be here for another year, and then you're going to be here beyond that in another capacity. So you will be shepherding the Huskies into that first season in the Big Ten.
Absolutely.
Do you have any concerns with that move as we sit here today?
Well, I mean, right now, the state of college sports is very, very dynamic, and there are lots of questions and issues. I feel, and part of what's exciting and why I'm very positive about being part of the Big Ten, is that the Big Ten will be at the table shaping the future of college sports. And so we will be part of shaping that future. And that is really important because it's a very dynamic time.
How much of this was driven by Regents, boosters, Huskies fans, and how much of this was driven by the TV networks?
I think that, all of this will be, I think the future we will be able to come back and get a better sense of who was involved in what. Hard to say.
Christian Capel, a name that I think you know, who writes for On Montlake now. He's written for The Athletic and other outlets. He wrote a piece this week, and I just want to quote him because I'm talking about numbers. Said that he's talking about the athletic department. While the department projects record revenue and a relatively modest operating deficit of a little more than $2 million in the 2025 fiscal year ending June 30th, capital expenditures related to joining the Big Ten plus the annual debt service payment on the loans that funded the renovation of Husky Stadium and Husky Ballpark necessitate external and campus assistance, meaning that the athletic department is going to have to go to your office, go to the Regents, and ask for money to help get them out of this situation. Is that good governance? Is that good economic stewardship?
We have been one of the very few universities that really have been very self-sufficient in terms of athletics. The problems we're in now went actually well before me and actually before the previous president. The biggest issue is the stadium debt and the renovation of the stadium. And that is the biggest driver. And then also our losses during COVID. What happened is that during COVID we had losses and we went through all our reserves to cover them. So now we're entering this situation without any reserves. But the really good part is we're not talking a bridge to nowhere. We know exactly how our revenues are going to boost up so that, what we're doing is bridging.
So what you just said there, the debt on Husky Stadium, is that what drove this decision to go to the Big Ten because of the potential for revenue down the road? You're only getting a half share out of the gate.
A lot of things went into that decision. Clearly, revenue was part of it. There's no question about that. But so was viewership, which was something that streaming versus, having network coverage, that was part of it. And the other part of it was relevancy.
So there you have it. Anamari Kase, the Now, outgoing UW president in 2025, she will lead them through this first Big Ten season. I think it was interesting. There's been some reporting in the last few days that at the UW Board of Regents, there was also a discussion they have to build out a studio, control room at Heck Ed. Remember the Pac-12 network? They don't have that anymore, so they have to build that out on campus. That's one of the expenses as well there at UW.
Well, and you look at it, I mean, not necessarily just UW, but you look at even the first Pac-12 to Big Ten move, USC and UCLA. I mean, that was also financially part of the puzzle here. And it makes you sad. I'm preaching to everybody already knows this, that it was money. And yes, it's a seat at the table, but that seat at the table was necessitated by some of these earlier moves that were driven by money. It's sad. And it's the fan who wants to just go check out a game and raise their kid on Mountain Lake or whatever. It's not about them.
Well, let's talk about something fun.
This was really fun. I enjoyed this.
Well, it's our Supersonic Minute. We're trying to do a Supersonic Minute every week. This is going to be substantially longer than just a minute because we talked with the legend, Lenny Wilkens, 3-time Hall of Famer, not only as a player, but as a coach and a coach with the Dream Team. He knows everybody in this sport, and he just lost 2 friends, Bill Walton and Jerry West. They were also Hall of Famers. We talked about that in an in-depth conversation and about finishing the Sonic story. Coach, how you doing? What's new?
Well, I'm doing fine. This time of year, I watch the NBA Finals. I'm addicted, always have been, and it's been interesting, and there are a lot of great athletes in the game today. They don't all know the game well, but there's a lot of them there.
It's a different game now than it was even a decade or 2 decades ago.
Well, it's different in the sense that, everybody shoots the ball. Everybody wants to be a shooter, scorer, and they get the green light. But they're not as smart as the players were. I mean, years ago it was a very physical, aggressive game, but everybody, you went to college, you played freshman basketball before you played varsity, and then when you graduated, you went to the pros. Today, guys come out, I mean, they don't even go to college sometimes. So, it's different. I have fun. I tell people, they don't believe it, but when I was a player, I never stepped out of bounds. I mean, court awareness, it's not there like it used to be.
Well, and it's a different game, too, in the college ranks, too, in terms of NIL and all those changes.
Well, everything. I mean, when we were in college, education was so important, and everybody was there for that. Today, they pay them, but, the college makes money as well. I always felt like there should be a fund that the money goes into, and then the player gets it when he graduates, but whatever.
Well, there's been a couple of pieces of news, for lack of a better description, in the last couple of weeks, and I know that they were both close friends of yours. One is Bill Walton, and another is Jerry West, both passing away. You knew both of them extremely well.
Yes. Yeah, I was Bill's first coach at the pro level, because I was a player coach in Portland, and the Portland Trailblazers drafted him. But I had met Bill in college. I knew John Wooten a little bit, and I was at a practice, and Bill was his senior year. But Bill really matured and grew, and became. He was always smart about the game. I mean, he saw the floor extremely well. Reminded me a lot of Jokic. Jokic really sees the floor well, and Bill was like that. I mean, if you made a great cut and everything, and you were open, you got the ball. It was there right now. Certainly, Jerry and I. We got to know each other, and back then the NIT was huge in New York. And after the NIT, they had what was called the East-West College All-Star Game. So all the top players from the East would play against the top players in the West. And and Jerry and I were from the east, and Oscar Robertson and Darryl Emhoff and guys were on the west team. And it was a heck of a game, went down the wire. We won by 1 point, and I scored the last basket, and Jerry and I got the co-MVP award. But we knew each other and respected each other. Back then, the league was really starting to grow. We would go overseas, do clinics and stuff like that. And Jerry was just an outstanding human being, and huge loss, huge loss. He, Bill, not too long before that, and they were both good friends of mine.
And both in the Hall of Fame right there with you.
Yes, no question about it. And, I been very fortunate, very blessed. And I've been inducted into the Hall of Fame 3 times. But actually it's 4. I forgot the other one. The other one was after my first year of pro ball, I had to go on active duty. And so I missed the next year of pro ball. I was in the service, Quartermaster Corps, Fort Lee, Virginia, and we won Second Army Championship. And so eventually I was inducted into that Hall of Fame as well. But yeah, Jerry was inducted for the 3rd time, and I sent him a note to welcome him, and just, there were a lot of wonderful young men that played at that time.
And so the original Odessa Brown Children's Clinic in the Central District, they have since expanded. Seattle Children's with a second location down off Othello, I believe it is, in South Seattle. You have your name up there. What did that mean for you to be included in that after all of these years of supporting Odessa Brown?
I mean, it's nice. I mean, I'm more interested in the young people.
Yeah.
And when I first came here, my wife and I were kind of recruited by two ladies who were very active in the community, in the Seattle community. One was by the name of Freddie Mae Gauthier, and the other one was Toby Burton. And they introduced me to the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic. And the medical director there was a gal named Blanche Lavizio. And I got to know her, and I saw how they treated the young people. And I thought, wow, this is something special. And then I got to meet over the years Dr. Ben Danielson, who was incredible, and so I wanted to give back to my community. I wanted to make it better, and I was always encouraged to do that by people I knew, and they were special, Freddie Mae Gauthier and Toby Burton, and the clinic became very special when I saw how they treated young people. It's, and like I said, the young people, they're our future. They're tomorrow's doctors, lawyers, politicians, athletes. And so anything I can do to help it be better, I want it to be a part of it.
And it's a tremendous facility that not only offers traditional medical care, but also mental health advisors, counselors. They've really kind of expanded their portfolio there in South Seattle, treating all levels of income, and I know that's been important for you through all these years.
This has been tremendous because everybody can't afford it, all right? And I just felt that when I sort of smile on some of these young people's faces and see them grow up and mature, I think that's special. I think that's important. And when we first came out here, I didn't know that Seattle would become my home, but it has.
Let's end with this, and I encourage anybody to look at the pictures from the '79 Supersonics, the pictures in downtown Seattle, how this community came together to celebrate that NBA title that you led, that you won the title. It will never be duplicated in Seattle, at least I think for a while, until there's another team here.
Yeah.
What do you think of all the recent scuttlebutt, what Adam Silver's saying, what others are saying about bringing the Sonics back?
Well, I think it should be. you know, and he kind of said, so, you know, Vegas and Seattle. But we should have never lost our team. This is a great city. We had great fans. They supported our team. And I loved, you know, when we won the championship. That was very special. We had 200,000 fans march in the parade. And they didn't tear anything down. They didn't burn anything down, okay? They were celebrating the championship. And a lot of us still live here, you know, and you saw the arena. One of the complaints about it was that the arena was old and we needed the new building. Well, Todd Lewicki his group has redone the arena. It's special. I've been there. I've seen it. And it's something to be proud of. So there's no excuse that we can't support a team. We certainly can. And these fans would turn out the day that we get a team. They'll be there. And I'm hoping it's soon, and I'll be out there with them.
There he is, the ambassador for Seattle basketball. He has been that way for more than 4 decades now. Lenny Wilkins, he used to have a foundation dinner every year that he would bring in Charles Barkley and Clyde Drexler and Magic Johnson. What he has done in this community it's hard to say that it's matched. I put him up there with Sue Bird. I mean, Lenny Wilkins Way already exists outside of Climate Pledge Arena.
Well, thanks for bringing that to us.
Hey, we try to bring everybody inside the arena.
Yeah, and that's what's so cool about this. We've got a lot of great stuff we're talking about. And, you know, listen, we're hoping, like Lenny said, like all of us are saying, that the Sonics come back soon. But he talked about that arena, the team occupying it right now, the Kraken. Here's the thing. What I love about the Kraken right now, the season ended 2 months ago. But you're watching the future right now in the Calder Cup Finals, the American Hockey League, Coachella Valley taking on Hershey. And you can just be a casual Kraken fan and see guys like Shane Wright, Ryan Winterton, Riker Evans that we saw plenty in Seattle, and they're the stars there. So that really intrigued me to catch up with somebody who's really been, honestly, a pleasure to talk to every time we do. That's Kraken General Manager Ron Francis, the architect of this franchise from the standpoint of player personnel, right? And these guys, they're all guys he drafted or signed. Usually when we're talking about the guys like Riker Evans, you know, Shane Wright, whatnot, they're people he drafted. And so when you're looking at this, you're seeing his vision for the future of this franchise play out. And that's what I'm really excited about. They didn't make the playoffs this year, but you're seeing why he selected the players he did. I want to bring you a snippet of that conversation. You know, I know when Coach Bilesma was hired for the Kraken job, we were talking about how the experience with the young guys, but what does it say about Coach that he's taken kind of 2 different rosters and at least a very similar result, maybe even better this year?
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's done a really good job in developing our young talent down there, but at the same time, he's done a really good job building relationships and getting the most out of our experienced guys, our veteran players. So we think those are all traits that'll bode well as he moves up here to coach the Kraken. But pretty exciting, you know, for the team to get back to where they are with the turned over roster, as I mentioned. A lot of our young players playing and playing important roles as we get into this final series. So bodes well for the future of our franchise up top as well.
And organizationally speaking, I mean, the idea that, you know, there's a lot of homegrown talent, guys that have either been there from the expansion draft or the first, you know, prospect draft, whatever you want to call it. And you're there with all the success. And certainly some of those guys we've already seen up here in Seattle. But I guess I want to go back from day one, organizationally, the way you've envisioned it. You know, how special is it to see these guys further develop and have these opportunities?
Yeah, you know, it's tough being a little patient. You know, we draft them and we got to wait almost like 2 years before we get to see them, you know, at the American League level and starting to play there. But, you know, I think our development staff has done a real good job working with our prospects, getting them to this point. You know, Dan and his staff have done a really good job with our players while they're there. We get to see some of those players play some games up here, as you mentioned, you know, Evans and Wright and Winterton and Morrison. But it's really exciting. These kids are, you know, we forget they're 19 turning 20 or 20 turning 1 and turning 21 in a lot of cases. And yet here they are in a really good league. I mean, this is our equivalent to the AAA. It's a real good league, and they found a way to get to the finals and challenge and hopefully win a Calder Cup. So just a great experience for them currently, but it also bodes well for them moving forward.
And how unique is this from the standpoint, obviously Dan's our Kraken coach and he's stuck with it in Coachella. I mean, it's cool to see that. But how unique is that? Obviously business at hand in Coachella, but obviously bigger picture as we get into the summer, forming the future of the Kraken. What is that dynamic like?
Well, I mean, he certainly got his hands full, right? He was adamant, we hired him. He wanted to make sure he wanted to finish the job down there and win a Calder. So he's focused on doing that. There's also other things that go with it. You're trying to, interview for people on your staff. You're trying to reach out to staff members we have. So there's a lot of things that are in play. And I think once this series is done, you'll have a little bit more time to have communication with our players and sort of get really settled in here in Seattle and with our organization. But for the time being, we're enjoying watching him compete for the Calder Cup again and hoping that he has a different outcome and that they can bring the Calder Cup to Coachella Valley here in a few weeks.
Yeah, Kraken general manager Ron Francis. First of all, he's been awesome since he arrived in Seattle as far as wealth of knowledge and information, but also great to talk to you. Like, he just gives it to you straight, and he levels with you, and he helps you understand from the reporter perspective, our inside the arena. I like playing that pun. I'm so sorry, but he so you have a question and he explains it, and you heard some of it there. He explains it in a way that's like, okay, I get why you're answering it, but here, or asking it rather, here's why this is the way it is. And kudos to him. Listen, second year they made the playoffs. Step back last year was not an easy decision to let Dave Hackstall go. We suspect it wasn't just Ron, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens here in year 4.
Hey, you know what? I've got a fun new sound effect. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So you got it. Final buzzer.
I'll take it and run with it. I'd be remiss if we did a show and I've talked about them the last couple of weeks, but if we didn't talk about the Mariners a little bit here,
yeah,
because this team's on fire. And I know we talk more about the business side of it, but you have to give that front office credit, because this was a thing that, from an X's and O's standpoint, didn't look that good for a little while in April. And if you're a fan of baseball, you never worry about things in April. But not only have they energized the fan base with their wins and being in first place by 8 games, around that margin, give or take, depending on any given day's results, but they've also engaged with some really cool things, bringing back Jay Buhner buzz cut night and having their beloved catcher shave his head. That's cool stuff that not every team does. Having a gender reveal over the weekend. Fans were hitting balls, and if they were pink or blue dust came out, and then that was their baby. I give that front office a lot of credit. That's my final buzzer right here, that there's a long way to go in the season, but they've taken something that could have gone really bad. It could have been really bad. And they've turned it into, at least at this moment in June, a first place ball club that is engaging its fans on and off the field. I give them a tremendous amount of credit.
All right. They still need a bat. I'll give myself a buzzer.
Oh, they do.
All I'll say is Charles Barkley, don't leave television. He's saying he's going to leave television because of this whole TV digital rights deal. Don't leave TV. He's too good. He's the voice. He's a guy who transcends sports and news. And we did it again. We took people inside the arena.
We did. Take us home, David.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.